Oh, kia ora koutou. Thank you, councillors. Just a little housekeeping thing. Yeah, so the live stream, we're not sure if it's just clicked into gear yet, but it's recording it anyway, and so it can go up later. It just might not be live streamed, unfortunately. So welcome. This is our 590th council meeting. It's actually a council meeting, but we're doing the Dangerous Dams deliberations today. So we've got a quorum present, and I'll declare this meeting open. We've got an apology from Councillor Swiggs, who's on his hearing commissioner training today, so he's off to that. And I think apologies from Councillor Davies as well, we received this morning. And we've got Councillor Diche online. And Councillor Cranwell as well has also put an apology in this morning. So any conflicts of interest? Yep, Peter?
Yeah, Chair, unfortunately I'm going to withdraw from this conversation here, so I wasn't part of the deliberation, the submissions process, and I don't feel like I should be part of this either, so that's my conflict.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. That makes sense. Thank you. So you're just going to sit back from the table? Yeah, cool. Thank you. So we'll go to 7.1, which is on page 5 of our agenda, and that's our unconfirmed minutes of the hearings that we had. You'll see them there on page 5, and then 6 is the actual minutes. Are there any questions about the minutes? Got a mover for that? Councillor Ward, you'll move, and Councillor Mackay, you'll second. Any discussion? No? All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? That's carried. Thank you. So now we're going to move on to the report. And of course, this follows the hearings process that we had and the submission process. So happy to have Cam and Aurora here to take us through this paper. So I'll hand it over to you guys. Thank you.
Excellent. And good morning, Council. So I'm pleased to bring this Dangerous Dams policy deliberation paper to you today. As you'll be aware, Environment Canterbury must adopt a policy on dangerous dams, earthquake-prone dams and flood-prone dams under Section 161 of the Building Act 2004, and this is part of that process. So on the 28th of August, Council adopted a proposed policy for public consultation, and consultation occurred largely over the month of September. 12 written submissions were received, and on the 24th of October you heard from 4 submitters. So following and considering the range of points that were made through those submissions that are outlined in this paper, staff are recommending a number of changes to the document that you'll see within your agenda pack, and those changes are clearly highlighted. With regard to those changes, they're largely around simplification, reducing the amount of words and making it clearer for readers and for dam owners to understand, and also around a number of points of clarification, particularly making it picture clear that this is around the post-construction safety of dams, not around the design or consenting of dams, but also really wanting to iterate, because there were a number of good points made through submissions that it wasn't quite clear if we were going over and above the requirements as set out within the Act, and so we wanted to make clear that this is about giving effect to the requirements within the Building Act and the regulations that sit under that, and so we've made a few adjustments there just to make it clear. We are seeking, as per the recommendations, asking for you to direct staff on any further changes you'd like to be made to the policy arising from today's discussion, but also just noting that it is intended that Council adopts the final policy at the Council meeting scheduled for the 27th of November. And I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions, councillors? Yep, Councillor Edge.
Thanks, Chair. I just have a couple of queries, really. Page 32, in the second, the paragraph that's been deleted refers to Section 164 of the Act, and the reference to terms dam warrant of fitness, and then there's also annual dam compliance certificate in Section 26 of the regulations. In looking at what we've done, can you please confirm that the requirements, and I'm referring to the Building Act, Section 140 through to 145, which talks about things like dam safety assurance programs. I presume that our policy is referring to the Act anyway. So those issues are being picked up with people cross-referencing to the Act. Am I correct in that? And because of that, because this is just a part of the Building Act, which is a large document, is there merit in referencing that and appending that to the policy, appending that section of the Act, the full description, which goes from subpart 7 of the Act? Would it be useful for people so they don't miss the boat and do something wrong?
Through you, Chair. So in doing, and we're happy to take guidance on this, through drafting the policy, there's been a clear, it needs to be read alongside the Building Act and the regulations, because there's a lot of parts of both the Building Act and the regulations that apply to this policy. And if we make references to those and allow people to go visit those, it safeguards us from, if changes are made to those, such as to definitions or thresholds, like we've seen over the past year, they can get up-to-date information from the from the New Zealand legislation site instead from this policy. But it does require actually readers to look between the two sources of information, both the policy and the national regulations.
Supplementary. So I understand that. Is it useful? Do we make that statement in our policy that people need to specifically refer to the current version of the Building Act, subpart 7, safety for dams? Have we
through you, Chair. So we do make the within the draft policy itself, within Section 2, we talk about the policy must be read alongside the Building Dam Safety Regulations 2022. So we're putting that expectation there, but we're not necessarily pointing to all the particular parts, given that the majority of the regulations apply.
The version I got from Google was the 23rd of December 2023. Is the latest version.
Sorry, through you, Chair. The latest version of what? Sorry, the latest.
Of the Building Act, the latest version, which subpart 7 says you refer to a date, but it's not the most up-to-date date. The version, it's not the date you've referred to in the document. It's not doesn't appear to be the most up-to-date date. And that the version I got off Google the other day was version as at the 23rd of December 2023. So, whether or not you generalise the version reference to the appropriate version or most up-to-date version. Anyway, thank you.
Councillor Edge, just clarify, is that in relation to the links that are at the bottom of page or on the introduction page there? Are you referring to those links that are down the bottom?
I think it's Cam just referred to a date.
Yeah.
And the date is, where is that? On
He
page?
said 2022. It's number 13.
No.
Oh, no, sorry.
Whatever date you were referring to, it's 2022, has been superseded.
Yeah. The Building Act. It's within that, though.
Yeah, I agree with. Councillor McKay has said in the policy it's talking about the Building and Dam Safety Regulations 2022, not the Building Act. So you're referring to the Building Act 2023 or December 2023. Look, I think there's two links down the bottom of the policy which you've helpfully put in there for people under footnote 5. I'm assuming I haven't clicked on them, but the two links, one is to the Building Act and one is to the Dam Safety Regulations. Is that correct? Yeah.
Correct. And through you, Chair, we will absolutely take on board just to make sure we have got those dates right, because it's a good point, because the regulations have been updated to make sure whether we have to refer to 2022 or 2023.
And make sure those links are linking to those most up-to-date regulations, because I think that is really helpful. It's sort of going to what you've said, Grant. People in the policy can read this, and in fact they can then click on that and take them to the regulations. So that's just probably better than appending it. In fact, people can click on that, so I think that helps that. Are there any other questions from councillors? I just wanted to ask a question about, I know that you've said that this is not about the consenting side of it, which of course some of our submitters were sort of talking about more. But in terms of that I remember one of the submitters talking about, the release of dams and all that, and making sure, I know obviously that comes up in the consenting process at the start of the thing, but we've got this responsibility for dams that may be consented a long time ago. Where's the overlap there? If those dams didn't have provisions for that, but now we're trying to look after people's safety through this policy, how do we fill that void between if a dam doesn't have a flow path and an emptying regime or whatever in terms of safety? How are we doing that through this policy? Is there any way you can help us with that?
Yeah, if you can. Yeah.
Might be a really tricky question, but I think it's really important.
No, it is a good question. So what the essence of these regulations is essentially to capture some of exactly what you've just highlighted around making sure that dams that may not be regulated through other mechanisms, and we absolutely do pick up issues like you've just outlined through the consenting process, but there are a number of dams across Canterbury that they predate any of those regulations. So this is about putting the onus on dam owners to essentially identify risky dams and making sure that we can identify things like flow pathways through these regulations. So that's part of what the assessment looks at, and then we have the record of that we're able to refer back to. And in some instances it does trigger the need for a resource consent process as well. And the two processes between the RMA and the regs and the building control function that we do all tie in together. So the consenting team looks after all of that. Yeah.
For insurance, like that came up quite a bit during the submissions in terms of insurance matters. Is that something that we can also sort of catch up with if we see that it's got some issues? Is that being raised through this assessment process?
So insurance is probably out of our jurisdiction to look at. That would be between the applicant or the dam owner and the insurance company. But I'll leave it there actually.
There are things like bonds that are available under the RMA though, correct? So things like that could be looked at?
Yep, bonding is a function in the RMA that if somebody was going through a consent process, that would be a tool that we would have available through that process.
Cool, thank you. Any other questions, councillors? No, it doesn't look like there is. So does that mean we're moving to the resolutions? Thank you, guys. Thanks for all your work, and we'll move to the resolutions. Do I have a mover for the resolutions? Councillor Ridge, you're happy to move? And Councillor Southwood, you're happy to second? Do you want to speak to that, Councillor Ridge?
No, I'm fine. It's really good, really clear, and I think those cross-referencing issues will be important.
Cool, thank you. Councillor Southwood, would you like to speak?
Yeah, just to say it's nice to see. I like you can see the submissions came in and you can see really clearly how those have been taken on board, and just the way it's been presented, I think, is really helpful. So, good piece of work. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Ian?
Yeah, just to agree with Vicky on those points. I think Cam and his team have done a really good job in adopting, Catherine and Cam and whoever else is responsible for adopting the tone of the submissions, which were asking for clarity. They've put the clarity in, which helps everybody. So I think that's good.
Kia ora, Ian. Greg?
Kia ora, thanks, Mr. Chair. You're pretty much parroting everything. I found Ian and Elspeth were very reasonable in the way that they were saying about safeguards. But likewise, I found Brian and the other Ian really interesting when they were talking about how the development and how things change, the difficulty, etc., around those that are putting in or maintaining those dams. So again, it was good to see that it has been picked up on. Kia ora, thanks.
Councillor Mackay?
Yeah, look, thanks very much. I'd like to thank Catherine and the team that's led this around developing the policy. It's been quite complicated, I think, trying to get our heads around what a classified dam is. That's one I've gone back and looked at several times, and I know when we had our briefing, I know Vicky, Councillor Southwest brought that up, and so there was, that's probably the one that's been the biggest. But yes, I agree. Like all submitters that come and present on something, it's around the scope of submission. But I think that staff have obviously taken on board or will take on board some of the comments that relate to the front end stuff of the consenting and insurance that you've raised, Chair. And look, I support this going through. I think we've come to a pretty good place with the clarity.
Thank you, Claire. Thanks. Anyone else wish to speak to it? No? All good. Let's put it to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? That's carried. Thank you. So I think that means that's the end of the meeting, and our next meeting is our council meeting on the 23rd of November. So 27th of November. Happy to declare the meeting closed, and we'll leave our karakia and stuff open till the end of the day. We've got a bit more to do today, so kia ora everybody. Thank you.